Have you ever walked into a room and felt like all eyes were suddenly on you, even though you didn't say a word? Have you noticed people leaning closer, listening more carefully, lingering just a little longer in your presence, but you're not doing anything different on the surface? That's not a coincidence. That's not luck. That's a shift in energy, and it's coming from deep within you. There's something powerful happening inside you, and it's not loud or dramatic, but it's undeniable. You may not have words for it, but you can feel it moving through you like a quiet force, steady and strong. You don't need to explain it to anyone because it shows in your presence, in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you look at the world. Something about you has shifted, and the people around you can sense it too, even if they can't explain it. They feel it in the air when you enter a room. They notice it in the way your silence holds weight, in the calmness behind your eyes, in the way you don't chase attention, but still somehow hold it without trying. This change didn't come from learning a trick or reading a book. It came from within. It was born in the quiet moments, in the pain you didn't run from, in the times you sat with yourself and asked hard questions. It came from the nights you couldn't sleep, when you felt things deeply and didn't push them away. You went inward instead of distracting yourself. You faced things most people hide from. You had conversations with yourself that nobody else heard. And from that came a different kind of strength, a different kind of clarity. And now, your energy carries the weight of that truth. You didn't become louder, you became more real. You didn't become more impressive, you became more grounded. And that grounding has made your presence magnetic. The energy you used to carry may have been scattered, impulsive, uncertain. You may have felt the need to prove something, to get noticed, to be seen. You might have used your sexual energy recklessly, without understanding the depth of it. But now that same energy has changed. It hasn't disappeared, it's matured. It's no longer something wild that controls you. It's something warm, steady, and alive within you. It draws people toward you without effort. It creates connection without pressure. It feels safe, but it also feels powerful. It no longer spills out in ways that leave you drained. It stays with you, fuels you, makes you feel alive from the inside out. That's what others are feeling now when they look at you. It's not just physical attraction. It's the feeling that you're carrying something deeper. It's the sense that being near you wakes something up in them, even if they don't know what it is. Women especially feel this shift. They feel your presence before you even speak. They find themselves curious, not because of what you say, but because of what they sense in your energy. You're not putting on a performance. You're not trying to win them over. You're simply being yourself, fully, completely. And that is something most people don't experience often. They lean closer, not because you're trying to impress them, but because they feel something in you that makes them feel more like themselves. They feel seen without being judged, heard without being interrupted, safe without being controlled. And that's what makes your presence unforgettable. You've become someone who doesn't chase moments. You create them just by being who you are. Conversations that used to feel shallow now carry depth. Simple eye contact holds more weight. A short exchange feels like it means something. You no longer need to say a lot to be understood. Your silence says enough. You no longer need to prove your value. You've become your value. Your worth is no longer a question. It's a fact you carry without saying a word. You're not interested in pretending anymore. You're not trying to be what others expect. You've taken off the mask. And that courage to be real is what makes you rare. It's what makes people pay attention without knowing why. In a world full of people trying to be someone else, you've chosen to be yourself. And that's what draws others in. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. Not because you're trying, but because you're living with intention. You're no longer driven by the need to be liked. You're guided by the need to be true. And truth, especially the quiet kind, is powerful. You've become a man of presence. And presence isn't about how much space you take up. It's about how much space you create around you. People feel calmer around you. They feel more open. They don't feel watched. They feel witnessed. They don't feel judged. They feel invited. And that's not something you do on purpose. It's something that naturally happens when someone carries truth inside of them, when they face themselves, healed parts of themselves, and decided to stop performing. That's who you've become. And what's even more beautiful is that this presence doesn't just affect how others see you, it affects how you experience the world. You notice things more deeply now. You move slower, but with more intention. You feel connected, not because others give you attention, but because you're connected to yourself. That connection changes everything. It changes how you listen, how you speak, how you make decisions, how you walk through the world. You're no longer rushing to be somewhere else. You're here, fully. And people feel that. They feel the difference between someone who is distracted and someone who is fully awake in the moment. You've become the latter, and it shows in everything you do. When you talk to people now, they feel like you're really there with them. You're not thinking about what to say next. You're not pretending to be interested. You're present. You ask questions because you care. You listen with your whole attention. You're not trying to get something. You're trying to connect. And people feel that. They feel it in the softness of your voice, in the way you don't interrupt, in the way you don't fill space with unnecessary noise. Your silence carries a presence that feels full, not empty, that feels alive, not awkward. And that kind of presence is unforgettable. You've stopped needing to be impressive. And in doing so, you've become fascinating because you're not trying to be anyone other than yourself. And that self, the one that's emerged from your inner growth, is someone who brings others home to themselves. Women especially sense this. They may not always know why they feel so drawn to you, but they feel more themselves around you. They feel less pressure to pretend, less need to perform. And that's because your energy gives them permission to be real. Simply because you are real. You're not pushing for anything. You're not forcing intimacy. You're not using charm to manipulate. You're just showing up, open, steady, present. And that presence makes people feel safe enough to show up too. What you're awakening in others is not just attraction, it's curiosity. A deep, steady kind of curiosity. The kind that doesn't fade when the moment passes. The kind that lingers, like a question they can't quite answer. What is it about you? Why do they feel so pulled in? Why does your presence stay with them long after you're gone? And the answer is simple, even if it's not always easy to explain. You're real. You're whole. You're not trying to be something. You already are something. And that something isn't found in your words or your looks. It's found in your energy, in your way of being, in your ability to stand in your truth quietly, calmly, and consistently. This is not a phase. It's a transformation. You've stepped into a new rhythm, not one you copied from others, but one that rose up from within you. You didn't learn this from watching someone else. You discovered it by walking through fire, by sitting in your own silence, by facing your own fears. And what's emerged is something that can't be taught. It can only be lived. And now that you're living it, everything around you is starting to respond. Life is beginning to meet you with more meaning. People are treating you differently. Opportunities are showing up in unexpected ways. Doors are opening without being forced. Because when a person comes into alignment with themselves, the world begins to mirror that alignment back to them. You don't need to announce your power. You don't need to chase anything. You don't need to be loud. Your presence speaks louder than words ever could. It says, I know who I am. I'm not here to take. I'm here to connect. I'm not here to perform. I'm here to be. And that simple truth changes everything. You've become the kind of man who doesn't just hold attention, he holds space. You don't just enter a room, you shift its energy. You don't just speak, you say things that stay in people's hearts. You don't just meet people, you see them. And in doing so, you've become more than interesting. You've become unforgettable, not because of what you're doing, but because of who you've become. And that journey, real, honest, sacred, is just beginning to unfold its power in the world around you. You've come to understand something powerful. You don't have to explain yourself to be seen, and you don't need to share everything to be understood. You've stopped trying to prove your worth, and instead, you've learned to rest in it. You no longer chase attention or speak just to be heard. Your energy now speaks for you. It's calm, steady, and clear. That quiet confidence makes people pay attention, not because you're demanding it, but because your presence naturally holds weight. You've realized that mystery isn't about hiding. It's about knowing your story is valuable and doesn't need to be shared with everyone. You show up with intention now. You let people see you slowly, piece by piece, when it feels right. That depth makes people want to know more, not because you're being distant, but because they can sense there's something meaningful inside you. Your strength isn't loud. It's felt in your silence, in the way you carry yourself without needing validation. You've stopped rushing into connections. Now you allow them to grow naturally. You don't manipulate interest. You create space. You let your truth invite others in. Especially with women, your presence feels different. It's not about charm or clever words. It's about how steady you feel, how honest you are, and how comfortable you are with being real. They sense that you're not just attractive, you're trustworthy. And trust, more than anything, creates true connection. You no longer define yourself by your pain. You've made peace with it. You speak from experience, not from wounds that are still open. When you share your past, it's not to get sympathy, it's to offer truth. And because of that, people feel safe around you. Your vulnerability isn't messy or uncontrolled. It's grounded. You're open, but selective. You know that not everyone deserves full access to your inner world, and that self-respect makes others respect you more. You've also become someone who listens deeply. You don't interrupt, fix, or judge. You hold space. You give others the freedom to be real around you. Your presence gives people something rare, the feeling of being fully heard. You don't just listen to respond, you listen to understand. That kind of listening is powerful. It's healing. It leaves a mark. People feel seen in your presence, not because you say the right things, but because your attention is sincere. Your energy now doesn't demand the spotlight, it naturally draws it. You've let go of trying to impress anyone. You just live with honesty, clarity, and purpose. You move with intention. You speak when it matters. You show emotion when it's real. And in a world full of performance, that kind of truth is unforgettable. You've stopped performing. You've stopped giving everything away. You reveal yourself with care, not fear. You're not hiding, you're pacing. You've learned that true connection doesn't come from giving all of yourself at once. It comes from showing up consistently, honestly, and fully over time. And that patience has changed the way people experience you. You're remembered not because of how much you say, but because of how you make others feel. You don't need to force closeness. You create it by being yourself. You've become someone who leaves a lasting impression without trying to. Because when you're real, present, and grounded, people don't forget you. You've become a mirror that reflects truth, safety, and presence. You give people the space to take off their masks. You remind them of something they've been missing, not just in others, but in themselves. You're not unforgettable because you tried to be. You're unforgettable because you're real when the world is busy pretending.